Hello everyone and welcome back to Milo Farms. Well, it's springtime and we're back out in the shop again getting this 150 horse Mercury outboard ready for spring and ready to get going. A few weeks ago we replaced that leaking gasket on the back there on the exhaust side, and in the process of looking that over I noticed we had a little bit of a problem here. On the side we had a couple of wires that were looking a little bit cracked right here coming off the stator. You can see the covering of the wires coming off there. The two yellow wires coming off the stator are the charge wires that go to the rectifier, which would normally sit right here. And then you've got the two wires with the yellow tape on them that go to the outer switch box, which sits right here. And then the other two wires that are left, the green and the red, it looks like, or maybe that was blue originally, goes to the inner switch box. I've already pulled the switch boxes off here. There's where the two inner wires hook. And then on the outer one here is the spot that the other two wires hook, and then the two yellows hook to the rectifier. So my original idea is I was going to cut this sheathing back and I was going to try to just replace the wires or try to put some sort of like shrink wrap over them to get them through another few years, because the stator was working just fine. But the further up I went up this tube, the wires were still the same. As you can see, they're just falling apart. The rectifier also didn't look great. It looked like it had gotten hot at some point in its life. This boat had dual batteries on it when I bought it, which in the manual for the new stator says it's not recommended for dual batteries. And then it also had some bad connections, which can also cause some voltage issues. So we've already cleaned that stuff up. Everything's working good there and has been for several years, but we think it has done some long-term damage to this stator wires and so on. So we are going to replace the stator today. So I've already got these wires loose here. There was one more connection right there I already took loose. Went up here on top of the flywheel, loosened the nut, took that off, and then went on to Amazon and bought this cheapo flywheel puller for this Mercury outboard. It was like $15. I'll put a link to that in the description if you want to pick one up. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to put the nut or the disc on there that protects the bolt, the crankshaft bolt, and then we'll go ahead and thread this in. See if we can get it in at least a few turns, and then we'll go ahead and put a wrench on that and try to pop the flywheel off. Well, I ended up having to put an impact on the puller here to get that thing to come off, but it did finally come off and loose. So we'll go ahead and unscrew this, collect the little disc that was under there, and then here is the flywheel. Go ahead and pull that off. There's the underside of the flywheel. Everything looks to be in pretty good shape. I don't know if you can see it, but down there inside of that spline there's a wider spline. That's the alignment mark to make sure it's all lined up. And then you can see inside of there is the magnets. So there we go on top. You can see the old stator. Looks like there's some cracking in it right here in that area. The rest of it looks pretty decent all the way around. So I've gone ahead and loosened the 4 bolts on the stator here all the way around. And the instructions that come with the new stator indicate that you locate where the wire came out of the old stator and put it back in that exact position. So I've already loosened the bolt here, got all the wiring freed up, loosen the 4 bolts there, and let's take a look at our new stator. So here's the new stator. It's made by CDI Electronics and it came off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description to that. So the new stator is similar to the old one. The benefits of this are supposed to be that the wiring is exposed so it can dissipate heat better. It's also supposed to have some sort of a ability to be more regulated than the original one was. Plus, it also has an extra ground wire that the old one didn't have. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. But what we're going to do is we're going to identify where the cord comes off of this one and go ahead and put it back on there in place of the old one with the cord in the same position. So here's the old stator all taken off. We're going to go ahead and set that to the side. There's the new one put on. You can see the trigger mechanism in the middle. Then we're going to go ahead, and I've got all these bolts lined up, but we're going to take just a very small dab of blue Loctite and put on each one of those just to make sure they don't work their way out somehow. So the new stator is on. Everything's tightened down and Loctited. One thing I did notice that was different was the angle at which the wire came off the bottom. The other one angled more out like this, went over the top of this wire. The new one angles straight down and will fit right through this little groove right here. It'll attach onto this bolt right here with the little piece that was on it before, and then we can bring it right down through here where it was before. But what I did notice is there's still a little spot right here where this metal could rub, and that's part of what rubbed on the old one. So what I've done is I've taken this piece of hose, split it down the middle, and I'm going to make a little protection for those wires as it passes through this area right here. So we secured the stator wire with the zip tie just like it was originally, and then the trigger wire comes down behind and is also secured by the same zip tie. Put some protection around those wires just so they wouldn't get cut or chafed. So what we're going to do is we've already put the two wires in the back here, the red and the blue. These are the red and the blue without the stripe. Put those in the back on pins that look just like this. Then we're going to hook up the jumper wire that goes from the back box to the front box. Then we're going to hook up the kill wire that goes from the back box up to the pin right here with the orange wire. Then the kill wire from the front that goes up to here. Then we're going to go ahead and hook up the red and the blue with the stripe to the front pins. And then we have this ground that we have to find a spot for. So we got all the wires hooked back up. These couple wires here had some cracking in the coating on them, but without making new ones, these wires cannot just be purchased because of the age of the engine. This one here can be purchased, the jumper that goes across. These two cannot be. So I used some liquid electrical tape, covered those up, cleaned them up well. They're both just the kill wires, so they haven't been a problem before without the missing, or with the missing coating, so they shouldn't be an issue now. Then we hooked up the red and white, blue and white on here to the appropriate colors. Tightened up everything on the new rectifier. This is also a CDI electronics rectifier because the old one was a little burnt looking. You've got the two yellows go here, and then the red for the charge wire goes here. It goes to the hot here, and then also the power goes down into the wiring harness up to the control box as well there. So we hooked the ground up down here. Alright, so we got everything buttoned back up, everything's tightened down, all the wires are hooked back up, everything looks good. We want to go ahead and locate this extra wide notch you can see right there on the crankshaft, and then we want to locate the same extra wide notch on the flywheel and put it back on with those matching. Flywheel's back on, and I think the torque specification for that center nut's around 100 pounds, but that's one you should probably look up for your particular motor, see what it says. Got the top cover put on, checked everything over. Going to reconnect the battery, and then tomorrow take it outside when it's not raining and see if we can get it started. In the past, I've always had a set of ear muffs on it to go ahead and start and run it out in the driveway, but I picked up a stock tank the other day. Somebody gave it to me, and I'm going to try to use that and put it in there so I can get a little bit more water flow and do a little bit better with the circulating system running and be able to really test out this new equipment that we got on there. So be sure to check out the links in the description below. There's a link to where you can get your stator like what we used here in this job, and also the replacement rectifier made by CDI Electronics. So take a look at those and be able to fix yours up and be in good shape again. So hope everybody enjoyed the video. Remember, you can't finish a project without getting started.